Town Board to order on this 15th day of June, 2023. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Sunday, would you call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Schneiderman.
Here.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Here.
Councilman Martell.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scivone.
Councilman Scrivoni has an excused absence from this morning's meeting.
Okay.
All right, and we will begin. We're going to start with FIMP, which is the acronym for the Fire Island to Montauk Point project. It's a federal project to rebuild our beaches with sand and also elevate structures in certain areas, low-lying areas. And it's been going on for quite some time, and it's getting closer and closer to when we actually see, well, we've actually done some early implementation of the project, but the major project is not that far away. So we're joined by Len Marchese, who has been consulting with us on this project, our former controller, Kellyanne Doyle, assistant town attorney, who's also been working on this project in-house for the town attorney's office. And do we have Army Corps reps coming in?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're gonna be on Zoom. And
They're coming in now.
And Hiram should also be here.
All right, and we have Jim Burke, our town attorney here, so Kelly, we're gonna trade seats. Yeah, Len, do you want to come up to the forward table? Frank, are you participating in this? Okay. All right, so who do we have online?
You can speak.
Can we see, hear, we want to just make sure we can hear you.
This volume.
No.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Mark Volker, Corps of Engineers.
I'm sorry, we had some static issues.
Mark Volker, Corps of Engineers.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Who else is on, Mark?
Sean McLean with Corps of Engineers.
Okay, anyone else? I see somebody.
Yeah, I see other.
Is that Gil Anderson? Oh, yeah.
Good morning, I don't know.
There he is. You're in the shadows a bit, Gil.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So
Okay.
Gil Anderson, who was former county public works or DPW commissioner, is working as a private consultant on this project, I think with LK McLean, right? Or,
Correct, Supervisor.
all right. Thank you, Gil, for coming on. So, as I said at the beginning, this is about the FIMP project, and we're getting closer and closer, so this is really an opportunity to update the town board on the status of that project. As the board's aware, we had to secure quite a number of easements along the ocean front, which requires surveying and appraising, and the acquisition of those easements. Of course, we get reimbursed for this. It's federally reimbursed. Many of the costs associated with this, and the sand itself, the first instance of sand, is also going to be fully federally funded. So I don't know who wants to lead this FIMP update. Is that you, Len, or Kelly?
Did they give us a deck?
I believe, yeah, Mark Volker from the Army Corps of Engineers, I believe he has a slide presentation to start off just with a general.
I find my slides. I'm looking on the share.
You keep looking, I'll stall if you want.
I've got my slides ready to go. I don't see that appearing on my, I've got other stuff that
I did.
I'd like to share.
So,
On
That's thinking ahead.
technology.
It's a hard copy of
Actually,
that.
give me
So we-
Slide presentation.
Yeah, I mean, to, I pretty much what I was.
Mark,
Case I paid.
Kelly?
Mark, you're going in and out. I hear you sometimes and not others. So I don't know why that's happening.
Yeah.
I heard the yeah.
I'll try better, I'll speak louder and closer. I don't see my presentation coming up as shareable.
Who's the host?
All right, so Charles, can we allow him to share?
He has to share. I have no control over his computer.
So if you go to your bottom of your screen to screen share, there should be a screen share
The
button.
green button.
And then it's,
Yeah, I see that.
and then you,
But I don't see I don't see the PowerPoint coming up.
is the PowerPoint open on your desktop?
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah.
It's open on your
Let me
screen,
stay
right?
here.
You gotta open it on your screen.
Hey, Mark, it's Matt. If you want to send it to me, I can give it a shot, try to load it.
All right, yeah,
That is with New York State DEC.
I'm try that. We'll try sending it to someone
It's
else.
kind of the project manager in the state.
Okay.
What's his last name?
Sheldon.
Sheldon.
C-H-L-E-B.
Matt Sheldon, he's the coastal program.
Hi, Matt.
Good morning.
Morning, Matt.
I'm sorry to get introductions. I've had an audio trouble initially, but I think I got everything straightened out.
All right.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
We're also joined by Aram Tertunian, or Tertunian, is that what they say right?
Close enough.
Was C or T? T. Tertunian.
Hey, you.
Okay, so I just sent it to, Matt. We'll see if Matt can get
Aram,
it up.
Aram and his company First
On there.
Coastal are also advising the town on this project. As I guess you're a coastal geologist, is that your technical expertise?
Turns out for like 40 years now.
That's all?
I'm shaking my head because I
Thought it was
understand
longer.
that completely.
Beer blast was just last week, right?
Okay, so we're still waiting to have for the PowerPoint, right? So why don't we say a thing or two about FIMP while we figure this out?
Yeah, what are we interested in?
So we're gonna focus today primarily not on the elevations, but on the sand, right? That's not on the elevating buildings, or is that part of what we're talking about?
Sure,
today?
no, I mean, elevating buildings is part of the, is part of the project. It comes later, it comes after the sand. The sand comes first. I can sum it all up here. We've completed the first two contracts, which were well west of you. Gilgo Beach, Fire Island Inlet, Robert Moses Park, State Park. We've completed, that's contract one. We've completed contract two, slightly further east. The next contracts coming up will be going first, contract four, which, and once we get our slides up and running here, basically, from Cuffsog, Moriches Inlet all the way to West Hampton. And then contract three, so contract four will be a year from now awarded, summer of 2024. And then contract three, which includes, Tiana, and then originally, had downtown Montauk as part of it. Unless downtown Montauk goes sooner, will be 2 years from now for award. And those are the two primary remaining sand contracts under FIM. That is a big 50,000-foot view of the project.
And the money is still in place for all this, right?
Money is 100% federal. It is still in place as authorized in 2020 under the Sandy bill. And that work, it is 100% federal.
Are you gonna
And
make
and
this?
then there's all the details that are associated with getting those contracts out, especially
So-
real estate easement issues.
You're gonna make this presentation available to us?
Yes.
It is, it's on our web now, I really should update it, I will update it.
All right, thank
to
you.
Include dates, but it is on our website, the New York District website.
I wonder if, maybe if it's on your website, it's possible that Charlie can show it on the screen that way.
Ooh, then I have to go find the link for that.
Well, you emailed it to one of the other participants,
I
right?
emailed the full, like the PowerPoint.
Right, I
Um,
have
he's-
that.
Oh, maybe send that to Charlie. Kelly.
You have the link to the website?
She has
She has the whole
printed this
PowerPoint.
out this morning.
I didn't
Oh.
really send that one out, I sent out the
So
the
Kelly,
actual
you
PowerPoint,
forwarding it?
which is, quite a number of
So, yep,
megabytes.
I'm gonna try to forward it.
And Mark, I can.
Kelly, you can.
Yeah, I'll look for it and
I
post it.
apologize, Supervisor, the board is late. Mark, I have.
Oh, someone got it, hang on, who's got it here? Let me see, is that me?
I have.
Oh.
There we go.
there it is.
All right, success.
Okay, there we go.
Someone,
We
is
got
it
it.
up?
Yep.
Takes a room full
Yep.
of
Oh, we
engineers.
down, okay.
It takes a room full of federal
There's a
engineers.
few jokes in there somewhere.
You know, this
We're not technology.
this is not.
Trust me,
this
that's
is
something
not
else I know about.
a minor thing to, try and do all this. Now, so now.
How many engineers does it take to run a power plant?
That's exactly right. Now, did it advance?
Yes.
It depends on the
Overview.
subject.
Oh, wonderful, okay. So, let me go back. Here we are, project update.
Can you make that full
And-
screen? Is it?
You're like a bridge too far
Hang
there,
on,
Jay.
hang on, let me see how I do that.
Okay. Just leave it, it's good.
No, I think I know.
Please.
Turn it into
There you
slideshow,
go.
there you go.
Now, can I do, oh, holy cow, there we go. All right, so, update, thank you, June 23 update. I should probably update this even better, and I will, before posting it again on our website. But for the Fire Island Montauk Point project, probably everything I just alluded to. We had Sandy in October of 2012. We restarted work on looking at the South Shore of Long Island, and immediately upon an appropriation in 2013, Sandy disaster relief money, 100% federal, and completed that study in December, the end of 2020. And this indicates design and construction is now underway. That is correct. We signed a PPA, a project partnership agreement with the state of New York, August of 2021. At that time, Anthony Ciora, he couldn't be with us today, or neither our senior planner, Steve Couch, but they were, the champions at that point of pushing this through and getting it signed by the state. The state did a great job going out to the county and the towns with sub-agreements. As you may recall, FIP is 100% federal for initial construction. And then there will be further renourishments will require a 50-50 cost share going forward.
Can you drill down on that a little bit?
Let me,
Well, that's, once we're done with the initial project, then,
When you say
based
50,
on- Based on, the project goes to, the operations and maintenance phase, it gets turned over. Evaluations are done under the,
I understand
under
that, I just
operations.
on the 50-50, just to make it clear, it's 50% federal, and then the other
And 50% non-federal.
Right, which is gonna be, I think,
Yeah,
35% state and 15% local, so.
It's 70,
Go ahead.
it's held as DEC. That is correct. As Mark said, that the project, because the way the project was authorized through the Hurricane Sandy supplemental, it was only authorized for initial construction, right? Which includes all the beach work, all the non-structural work. But generally speaking, when we have partnered with the Army Corps on these core projects, it includes both initial construction and the long-term renourishment / maintenance of the project. In this case, it didn't, because of the way it was authorized. So, for future renourishment or future, work on the project, we'll need an additional set of project partnership agreements. The cost share is 50% federal, 50% non-federal. The non-federal portion is split 70 state, 30 local.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark. Yeah.
And that
If
is
there's any other
still,
questions, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, that's still TBD. A separate agreement will need to be signed. That is still, you know, TBD as well, with the state. And, then, as Matt said, there will be, a non-federal portion required to, for periodic renourishment. I mentioned already contracts 1 and 2, completed, this spring, with great, I want to give credit to everybody who, you know, there were maintenance delays, there were weather delays, there were, many, issues that, required, going beyond, our initial stop date, and we did have to request from the state, from federal agencies, resource agencies, permit extensions, and we did get those, and we were able to complete the work. And it was essential that we wanted to get done the navigation channels in addition to the sand placement and not have to come back for a third year in a row, at least as with regards to contract 1. And again, I said this is already, there's a link, and I'll make sure that this is the latest version of this gets posted when we're done. Here's the project. Purpose: reduce storm damage, maintain or enhance resources, essentially Suffolk County. All the way to the tip of Montauk Point today, not really part of the FIM project. We are out at Montauk, the lighthouse today, having completed that work, separate project. Extremely impressive if you have not seen it. We've extended the tip of Long Island some X number of feet with rock to make sure that that lighthouse is protected for another number of years. One of the most impressive things that we've done here at the district in a number of years. Visually impressive. 83 miles of shoreline, 200 of 220 of bay shoreline, navigation channels, and three navigation channels. So further, a breakdown of the project. There's a structural component and a non-structural, which we can talk about later. The first 2 in green there, work that we've completed. Gilgo and Robert Moses, about 1.5 million cubic yards.
Can I just,
in place.
on terminology, because this always gets confusing to people and we have the
Sure.
public watching. So when you say structural, you're talking about
Yes,
sand?
yes. So
You're talking about sand,
confuses-
which is not really a structure?
Structural is sand.
All right,
yes.
when you say non-structural, you're talking about elevating buildings,
Other
which,
measures that do not.
which seem like
that are
they're,
not placed into the
so
sand.
it's sort of counterintuitive.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But we're dealing with federal
Engineers.
government, so.
There you go. And if you think about it, it's this idea of like, well, what's the project? The project is, storm damage reduction. So we're at the structural thing of moving sand to mitigate and shore up against storm damage. Non-structural is other stuff that you would do to those ends. And yes, those other things, in this case, in some communities will involve elevating homes. So, and then of course that you go, well, that's a structure, and but the non-structural really, in this case for FIM, refers to home elevations. Structural is the placement of sand. As I said, we have two in the can, 2 contracts. And then upcoming will be Tiana and Montauk. Let me get that. This is Montauk is the contract 3, as scheduled. West Hampton is part of contract 4. We then have a contract 5, which will be removal of a groin at Ocean Beach on Fire Island, and that is also associated with a relocation of a well. And that is still to be worked out, probably still a couple years away. The well work, the design for that needs to be completed and executed before we can go ahead and remove the groin. And then we have the coastal process features renourishment for Outlier, which will be contract number 11, still a few years away, if not more.
Is that the rebuilding of the wetlands and marshes, or is that?
Yeah, coastal process features a whole array of things, you know, adjusting dune elevations, removing bulkheads, debris removal, grading, replanting, you know, beneficial vegetation. So we have 12 of those CPFs, as we call them, as designed. They're part of the project. They're under various contracts. We've completed 3 or 4 of them between 1 and 2, contracts 1 and 2. I wish we had our biologist on. They could really dig into that. But we also have, you know, there's a good description of those and on our website as well.
Are we in this project, and maybe this is too granular, no pun intended with the sand, but are we doing any stockpiling of sand for future restoration or, you know, emergency or, you know, breach contingency sort of planning? Are we gonna have some designated sites, since we're gonna have the ocean dredge there? Are we gonna, is that part of the planning, some?
I mean, it's, the contracts or the engineering is designed to, you know, what's the word, to give a very robust, you know, when the sand is placed, you know, I think at least like with downtown Montauk, we're looking to pump, you know, at least 500,000 cubic yards. So far, these have not included a stockpile.
Okay.
The contracts as you know, as executed are for a particular design.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
This might come to DC, just to add to that, I mean, we have, not necessarily expense, but in the past, we have, with the Corps called betterments or additional work, where either the state or our local partners pay to place stockpiles and additional things. So, you know, it is a potential. If that's something the town is interested in, you know, it would probably have to be town funded 100%. But it's definitely something we could, you know, separate permits, a separate process, but it's certainly something we could at least look at if that's something that the town is interested in pursuing.
Okay. It's way down the road here, so. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So non-structural, again, I alluded to that or mentioned that it's homes. It's on the you know the back bay or the land side. The barrier island gets the sand, and the mainland gets the non-structural. We've been collecting data for a couple of years now. It's homes that are in the 10-year floodplain. I can go into that. Ultimately, what we hope to do within the next year or maybe more is to initiate a pilot program in a couple of neighborhoods that have been very hard hit, and at least get, you know, a certain number of homes going with that. It's a huge number of properties, and you'll see that in a later slide. And then to continue on for, you know, several years beyond that, going from neighborhood to neighborhood, offering homes to be elevated. We also have, and again, I wish my biology folks were on here, an adaptive management team. They meet several times a year, multi-agency, to look at what we've done and to suggest improvements for future work, mostly on the environmental side. Here's a more detailed, again, and you probably could use some updates too. I'll make sure I do that before I post it. Of all the contracts, of the type of breach response, where the CPFs are. It's a very good summary of the whole program. All of the red along the mainland there, you want to call that part of Long Island the mainland, that's all the non-structural work. So for example, I'm just looking at, contract 3 and contract 4, you look up there, Rensenburg, Quantuck Bay, Spionk, Moriches, Center Moriches, Mastic Beach. All of these areas have homes that are within the 10-year floodplain and are potential candidates for home elevations. And we do have detailed, by block, structure by structure, depictions of these, maps of these, posted on the website. They're a little bit tough to get to. There is a link. It's in the main report, the general reevaluation report. And what we've been doing, has been going out to look at these areas, survey them to again see which structures are still there. Some have already been elevated. Some are gone from recent storms. So little by little, we're going, neighborhood to neighborhood, town to town, and we'll be evaluating, what's eligible for elevation over the next couple of years. Rotate down here. So here we go. This was, if this is, it should be an interest. It's the cost of FIMP initially fully funded, over $1.7 billion. The bulk of this is the non-structural, the home elevations. As you can imagine, and the price is only going up. This is a 2020 price level. We are reevaluating this based on inflation, based on the cost increases in the past several years. We think this will probably, go well above 1.9 at this point.
Do you know the breakdown, how much of it's sand of that 1
Yeah, I mean, it's, under this 1.7 billion, over 900 was for the homes. The sand was, in the 700s.
Okay.
700 millions. Most of our contracts, they're 20, 30, $40 million sand contracts. So you add that up if we have, and then there's, the additional costs associated with that.
Do we know what Southampton is getting in terms of sand? Is it like in the $30 million?
Well, we could, once we could probably, approximate that, or figure that out. Once we put the contract out, determine what the volume is, and then, compare it to, what volume that we're likely placing, and then compare it to, previous bids. I don't have that now, but it looks like it's a fairly substantial contract. Recent contracts, our first contract 1 was 47 million. And our last contract 2, less than that. I want to say in the 20s.
Are we more volume-wise than contract 1?
I mean, it looks like it. I'm just looking, off the going back. Bigger area, bigger, contracts 3 and 4. A lot of it has to do with the type of equipment, where the sand's coming from, that kind of thing. We can
I'm just curious, I
Trying
don't
to
need
find
to, I don't need to know right now, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's tens of millions, if
It will
not
be tens
hundreds.
of millions of dollars.
Could be hundreds,
Federal
it could be
money, yes.
over 100 million, yeah.
Yeah. That would be exceptional. But, you know, who knows with inflation at this point. And there are real estate, reimbursements, which are part of the program. And we've been, working with the state to pay those out, through the FIN program as well.
So could you tell me what LERD stands for?
Oh, where's, Sean? Sean, you got the, it's, easements,
Real estate rights of way.
Rights of way?
I need my real
Sorry,
estate.
part of the
easements,
easement
relocations,
That's $153 million.
right of ways, disposals.
Okay.
Wow.
Are those
Basically,
broken down
the
by,
real estate
are those broken down by your
All
kind?
real estate stuff.
Yeah, with obtaining easement and other real estate rights needed to construct the project.
Yeah. So are those broken down by township? Or you haven't gotten there?
I mean, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Okay.
Yes. They would.
Yeah, we still need that.
Probably have a guesstimate.
And the.
Sure.
The non-federal O and M course, that's the monitoring, is that the town's responsibility?
I'm sorry?
The non-federal O and M course, I assume that's the ongoing monitoring annually, is that the town's?
Yes.
That's the town's course?
It's non-federal, so it would be how the state wished to proceed on that. Yeah.
Right, the responsibility passes down through the project partnership agreement from the state, and it's with the town. Yeah, ultimately, the operation and maintenance will be the responsibility of the town. Once the contract is complete, the Army Corps provides the DEC a operation and maintenance manual of how the project needs to be maintained. We probably have samples from other projects if you're interested in seeing one. Then New York State DEC will provide that to the town, and the town will be responsible for maintaining the project for the operation and maintenance.
Just, hi guys, this is Aaron, just a point of information, operation and maintenance doesn't mean renourishment. Operation and maintenance means that you're going out, you're surveying it, you're.
So our near term, as I alluded to, probably move the contract 4 up top since it's going first. Right now, we're looking for an award for contract 4 a year from now, summer of '24. Plans and specs for that are underway. Contract 3, we moved that to the right because of the need to acquire real estate, which is not an insignificant. Real estate easements, which is not an insignificant task with that. So
Do you still
at
have,
this time,
yeah,
Glenn,
Go ahead.
they're not acquiring real estate, this is for the easements.
well, that's real
Yes,
estate.
that's what it's
I know,
Oh,
this
okay.
is acquiring.
Is Montauk still tied in with contract 3? Because that's a awful long time for them to wait. They're pretty
well, it
precarious.
is. So there is a twist to that. We do have an emergency repair contract that we are looking to open bids on. That's been advertised. It is for work at Fire Island, and it is under a different program. It's under our emergency response from a storm from a couple of years ago at this point, PL 8499 program, and we are looking to potentially include downtown Montauk as an option in that contract. And so, again, the lift is to get the real estate work done in time for us to, the emergency repair contract, it's essential that we award that and get that out. And we do have, an interval there that we, want to be able to award that option for placement downtown Montauk. I mean, if that happens, it'll be a good thing.
That would be just a temporary Montauk project, or that'll be the full Montauk project?
Well, that would be the Montauk project, that would otherwise go under contract 3.
Okay.
Would otherwise still be 2 years out.
So it's still larger, the 500,000 cubic yards?
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at for Southampton currently November, 2 years from now. So not this November, not next November, but the following November.
Oh, no. Where's the
Yes.
end of the town?
Construction start.
Contract 4.
No.
Well, it's split
really
up, though.
Contract 3.
Contract
Yeah,
3
contract
and
3
4.
is,
They have
I'm
it
looking,
split
up
up.
from,
For Tiana, I'm talking about
They
Hampton
split it.
Bays.
yes, that's correct.
That's over
Shinnecock Inlet Park West, I'm looking on my,
This is Shinnecock.
So
This is West Hampton.
I don't,
Here's West Hampton.
I don't know that it lasts what we've got there right now that long. I mean, we did have a federal dredging project there. They dredged the canal, they deposited materials, but, one good nor'easter and, there's so much amplification of wave energy in that bowl just
Yeah,
to
but
the
that's
west
not even-
side.
That's not even in contract 3.
It's not?
That's Woolsey.
No, contract 3
Is that
over-
part of Woolsey?
what-
or-
It's, yeah, it's over in Shinnecock.
That's
They
separate.
just did, they just finished.
They just did it. They did an emergency repair back to project spec.
I thought that was part of Finn.
It's part of FIP, but it operates on a separate schedule.
So we'll have more sand coming before 25?
I don't know, Mark, can you hear me?
yeah, vaguely, very, you were talking about another program or another,
No,
Just the
I was
area-
talking about
You don't have to
Woolsey.
do that with it, Mike.
Sorry.
Just the area of concern that I'm bringing up is just to the west of the Shinnecock Inlet, where we've seen high energy wave activity, sort of scouring out the beach, ejecting it. There's like an eddy that occurs there, and we have a pretty intense cove. We almost had a breach there a
Just
few years
tell them
ago.
it's Woolsey.
Aram is saying that it's under Woolsey, the west of
Listed on your-
Shinnecock
in that
Inlet.
chart, right?
It's on
But
the
that
chart, yeah.
Right in
part is
that
also
circle.
part of FIM.
Right, what was constructed as part of FIM contract 2, that we just completed?
And when are
that
they
is,
coming back?
we did, yes, just dredge Shinnecock.
Okay, I mean, the beach is good right at the moment. I'm just thinking if there's no more sand coming for 2 or 3 years.
Ask him when the next one is.
Do you know when the next Woolsey
I,
element is?
it would be, I think it would be under a renourishment.
Do you know
I
the
think
year?
that would be, that's, that would be, once we turn over, I mean, contracts 1 and 2, we're doing survey work, the intent is to turn those over. And then we would need to consider those under the renourishment program.
Can I ask, when you turn them over, you turning them over at the design spec? Because by the time you turn this over, it won't be at design spec. Can it be brought up to design spec before it gets turned over?
I think the intention is to turn them over pretty quickly because of that, yes.
All right, we'll just keep an eye on that one, because the local share of the renourishment, if it's not at design spec, will be not reflective of,
Right.
what we had anticipated.
So, yeah, just ask him if we need a new PPA for that.
Aaron wants to know if we need a new PPA for that.
No, that's actually, yeah, I guess it is a PPA. I was trying to think what we call it now. It is a PPA.
What is that, a
It's a contract.
It's an agreement,
project partnership agreement?
Right.
separate agreement other than the FIP agreement. Specifically for renourishment.
When?
Yeah, when, somebody asked a question?
When?
Yeah.
It's completed. Just
Is
done.
that-
That,
It's done this week.
Yeah.
If the when was aimed, it's a secondary like I said, Wilkie was just completed, right, as far as some contract too, or at least stay in place there.
Yeah.
So unless there was, like you mentioned, the storm event where it could potentially be repaired under Utility 499 or something like that, some kind of emergency action, presumably the next time would be the sand would be placed there would be under the long-term renourishment of the FEM project. Like I said before, at the start, right, that the current agreements that are 100% federal only for initial construction. So before that could happen, we would need to, a new set of project partnership agreements that would cover the long-term renourishment of the project.
So that's all of the
Those,
So it's a ways out.
those are still, I believe, under development by the Army Corps.
I'm just a little confused as to that particular beach, Woolsey versus FEMP, because, my understanding was FEMP would have this periodic renourishment that included potentially dredging the Shinnecock Inlet, the shoal area, maybe sand from the east, side of the jetty, and being placed there. And I just a little bit confused as to whether this is Woolsey or FEMP. And when FEMP happens, we're gonna see more sand there, I believe.
I want to know what the renourishment cycle is, how many years do they?
So,
You're correct, right, there were several, within the FEM project area, there were several emergency stabilization projects, right? Fire Island is one, Woolsey is another, downtown Montauk was another one. And, FEM, all those were built under the FEM authorization, Mark can say anything wrong with this, so.
No, that's right, yeah.
Is that the DEC?
So now,
renourishment
they're
program
all
you're
being
talking
rolled into
about?
FEM, and like I said,
That's-
Woolsey
that's
was
a
just
state one?
constructed, right, Mark, we
Yeah.
just finished in contract 2 placing
Not
sand.
in-
Correct, yeah.
Challenges with the timeline, because the contractor there were a lot of, weather delays, construction delays, but we just finished placing sand there. So, because it's being rolled into the larger FEM project, any additional sand, right, it will need that separate FEM agreement. Like I said, FEM is kind of separated into 2 parts right now. One is the initial construction under the current PPAs, 100% federal. The second is kind of the long-term, what they call continuing construction for the FEM project, and that includes long-term renourishment. There's a breach management plan, right? So if there's ever any breaches in any of the barrier islands, it includes that, the long-term adaptive management, all those long-term construction items, those will need a separate project partnership agreement. There's a plan for them, right? They are within the FIM report in part of the overall project, but because of the way the standing authorization was structured, they need a separate set of agreements. Will be cost shared between the federal government, state government, local government, but those agreements have not been drafted. That's my understanding, the Corps is working on them, and one,
Yeah, no, they have-
obviously one.
Deal with this issue.
We have, we have to dig up the latest copies and get them to the state and start working on them.
I guess, again, just for clarification, my question really is that particular beach, which got sand under Woolsey, will also, to my understanding, be getting sand under FIM when the FIM project occurs in, November of '25. Aram's shaking his head saying no.
It's not in a
And this
contract.
is saying no.
They'll get it under renourishment.
Right, Aaron is correct,
It's a-
it was, what we got sand as part of this contract.
It's in
We already,
the
received sand,
DEC's
well, the
We'd already
contract
received his
program.
FIM
agreed, right,
It's not
it's
eligible.
only the Southampton portion, and Mark could bring back up the slide if you want. It's only
Yeah.
the TM,
West of
going
there.
to fall. It's only that location and potentially downtown Montauk.
Oh,
I know that-
this is Southampton, but you're saying it's west of Ponquag Bridge?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, west of Pontoon Bridge, yeah. It's just Tiana. It's from Quag to basically Road K.
So if this needed to be done again, it'd be done under an emergency
No, be done under a
dredge,
scheduled renourishment as part of a future agreement.
unless a
which is-
storm came in.
Unless a storm came.
Okay.
Then it would go under emergency. Right.
Okay.
So I think that's your problem, is that
Well, there's not enough sand there now, and so I'm a little bit concerned. I was
There's never
hoping,
enough sand there.
Yeah, there's a lot of sand in the bay, though.
I mean, there's enough sand,
But we should,
To
we should,
weather a storm,
go back
right?
and focus on the stuff that's.
Yeah.
where we're at.
that's fine.
Or FIMP related.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank God.
All right, let's keep going. I've been reprimanded.
All right, so, not a whole much on this, again, non-structural,
Not at all.
ultimately elevating, up to 4,400 structures initially identified in the report. Again, our primary, our work at this point is to continue surveying to see exactly how many of those 4,400 structures remain. And then developing, initially pilot programs, at Mastic Beach and Frederick Shores. You know, it sounds like a lot of structures. There's a core project, west in, Nassau County Back Bays. I think it's 4 times this number. Around the country, similar numbers. The Corps of Engineers right now is looking at being given the mission to do this, and we're trying to like figure out the best way to do it. It's not the type of work that we have traditionally done. We do non-structural. It's usually on a much smaller scale, associated with a few homes in a particular project area, not thousands. And so one of the big things that we're dealing with now is what type of real estate interest, long-term real estate, O&M interest the Corps is supposed to take in these homes, that, you know, under federal law, federal acquisition rules, we would normally have to take under, you know, any other type of project. So a lot of this is still being worked out, and the best way to accomplish this for the most amount of people is still sort of, we're still working on this, on the scale that needs to be done. Here's by town. Southampton looks like, you know, initially the report indicated 700 structures. Brookhaven, over 1,200. Babylon, 1,500, you know, they all add up to that number. And we're sort of ground truthing that now, to see where it really does fall out.
So can I ask you a question? Does that include the homes on the north side of the bay that you have outlined in red on your map? You'd mentioned Remsenburg, Spionk. So those homes, I mean, just anecdotally, I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's anything, it's the north side of the bay. That's
Okay.
where the non-structural program is.
So
yes.
in this red area, I'm seeing a lot more than 704 homes.
Well, if you know, we do have, I can direct you to also to the detailed, you know, maps. I think it's, you know, we're painting with a very thick brush here on this PowerPoint, but,
No, and I appreciate that. I just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't want us to get surprised at, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, right, don't forget, it's not every home necessarily
Right,
to be
right.
eligible with red areas. It's only homes that are, you know, currently don't meet the FEMA base flood you know, the state requirements, which is generally the FEMA base flood elevation +2. It doesn't meet current flood code, right? So if a house has already been elevated, or is newer and meets the state building code for flood requirements, it wouldn't be eligible, right? These are only houses that are under the BFE and otherwise non-conforming.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you're saying. I think when you're on the ground, you're gonna see something different there, so I'm just kind of giving you a heads up. That area I know pretty
Yeah,
well.
much appreciated.
Yeah. Appreciate that, and I think that is the end of my slides. Let me unshare. Do I unshare it? What do I have to do now?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, board, any other?
Questions, yeah?
questions here?
The lifting program in the flood zones, that's voluntary right? And,
100%, yep.
okay, so I'm wondering about homes that are on the Dune Road side, which are, directly impacted by high water and sea level rise. And we're working with easements. Maybe it's a question for you, Jim. I don't know how that intersects. If it's voluntary on their part, and yet we're asking them for an easement, I don't know how that,
But the easements are only gonna be on the ocean.
right, that's
along
what
the
I'm
dune
talking
line.
about,
Yeah,
Dune
that's the only
Road.
easements that we're acquiring at this point. As far as,
The easements, right, the easements for the non-structural are not voluntary, the easements for the sand placement are not, right? We need those easements in order to place the sand.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but
Well,
I
I'm
can see
sorry,
points of
the
conflict.
home elevations, I think that we're not, we don't, I think that's what Mark was talking about, and we don't know if easements are going to be needed or what's going to be needed for the home elevation. We have a home elevation program overall, it's a 100% voluntary program, people can sign up, but those are separate than the easements for the stand placement, right? Which are.
Uh-oh, I asked the wrong question.
we lost you, Matt, a little bit.
And then if they opt out of elevation now, there is no going back, right? They can't come to you down the line and say, you know what, we're sorry we passed, we want it done.
I don't think we know yet.
No.
This is years
Program,
away.
we're still working out the details of the program. I think once we have everything nailed down on how it's going to work, we'll start setting up meetings with all the towns to talk about it. But like Mark said, of course, they've really done a large scale non-structural project like this before, so we're still working out kind of really the nuts and bolts of how it's all gonna come together.
Okay.
Are
You
there,
know, I think, it's still TBD, hopefully you see good things happening with your neighbor or the next neighborhood over or whatever, and then if you had any hesitation, then you go, okay, maybe this is okay, I'll sign up. It's all still TBD.
We might need to revisit the code too, because there may be zoning conflicts with height.
And the
If you're taking an
trustees.
existing two-story home and you're lifting it up and you have to deal with pyramid law and height restrictions, we're gonna have to look whether we're gonna,
We'll have plenty of time.
if each one has to go to zoning board, that may be problematic versus we might be able to create some sort of relief.
yeah,
Because our jurisdictional boundary is a high tide mark, and if that changes, then, these are things really gotta think about.
is there any elevations on the Dune Road side, Matt, or all everything on the north of Shinnecock Bay over the bay?
I don't know off the top of my head, maybe Mark or someone does, but if not, we can check and get back.
They mark
I mean, the elevations are all,
on
on
the
the
mainland?
north,
Yeah, okay.
the north of the bay.
I have
Okay.
a cash flow question. When you put up your numbers, you had a pretty high number associated with real estate. I don't know what the number will be in Southampton, and we haven't seen the first appraisals yet of the easement value and don't know where the property's owners will be. I'm hoping that the number's not as high as some people think because of the public easement. But either way, if it is high, and we have to lay out the money for those easements, and some may be contested, I'm just trying to figure out, from my perspective, what funds I'm using, or the town is using, for the acquiring of those easements, and how long do I will it be before I can replenish, if I have to, I don't wanna have to borrow the money, which we may have to, bond for it. I might be able to, forward it out of reserves, but it really depends on how long it's gonna take to get reimbursed. So, Len, I'm sure you've been thinking about this as well, how we manage it. We have like 100 easements.
I have a plan, Jay.
All right, so Len doesn't want to discuss it on TV right now. But Len says.
So any other
he-
town can contact Glenn. He's got a
I don't
plan.
wanna give away free advice.
And obviously, if we have to borrow money, you know, the interest rates have gone up, and so we'll have additional costs, carrying costs, which I don't know what degree those carrying costs are reimbursable, but that could be significant, so.
We're still waiting, I believe, for a meeting on reimbursable costs, right, Matt? We were gonna
This
say.
next week.
That was the
Is that next week?
question.
And
That's
even,
correct.
What is
So we're kind of the
reimbursable?
nuts and bolts of how, you know, that process is going to work. Talk about timelines, talk about very, you know, paperwork and all.
We're gonna
all
focus
stuff.
on
Yeah.
meeting just on that.
because we can't, either way, whether we're carrying it for a long period with paying interest, or we're taking money out of reserves that are earning interest, it can't be a long period. It really, you know, this can't go on for,
It has a time.
it's gonna be the costs on our side are gonna be very high. And I'm concerned about that, so if you guys are gonna work that out and we get paid back within a reasonable timeframe, that would be helpful.
I thought we were only laying out costs for the surveyors and appraisals, but not the actual easements. Oh, wow.
Everything.
And a portion of that's
What we'll do
reimbursable.
is, we have a meeting scheduled just on that topic, Jay. So
Negotiate.
when we get that,
right?
I'll come back and I'll give you guys a brief on
Yeah.
what we can expect.
You know, and.
Expect there'll be
CP
reimbursements as we go.
CPF reserves cannot
We're
be
not
used
gonna have to
for
lay
this.
out
We're
the
gonna
cost
do
for
it-
80 easements.
CPF can't touch
Initially, we're thinking like we're gonna do this in blocks of 10, but the problem is that
It's gonna take long.
it's still, if you don't have 10 people that agree to the appraisal price, like, you gotta get people to agree, then we can write those checks for the 10 people.
Right.
So, you know, and then so we need to group them into groups of people that are agreeable. And then we can lay all that money out at one shot and then seek reimbursement on that group of people. But
Yes.
there's gonna be a bunch of people that don't agree, and those are gonna require special attention, and so that means that's gonna delay the process.
Right. Well, there's gonna, right, if people agree, we're still gonna have to, we do an advance payment. People, we have a number, and if they don't agree with that number, they're entitled to at least that initial offer, and then they can contest it.
Do we
Go to
have
court for another number.
a process in place where people can donate the easement with the tax deduction, you know, as a charitable gift?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a process, there's a intent to donate form.
Well, it's similar to CPF, the way we do it right now.
Right.
And
So if we say, if an easement's,
It's a
let's say, worth
percentage of the
$10,000, and they just say, yeah, you can have it,
If they give it to you for no cost or little cost, and its easement is worth $50,000, that's a $50,000 charitable gift to the public entity,
possibly.
possibly.
to John's point, we
Possibly.
can't use CPF to pay for our FIM costs, but to the board's credit, we are utilizing CPF. We're buying key properties along the way here so far. You know, we're looking at that, and you guys are
Right.
doing a great job doing that, looking at
A-
properties.
As an act of
throughout the
preservation,
area.
it happens to have an
Right,
added benefit.
and it's going to make the overall FIM job a lighter project for us to handle.
What about CPF acquired properties, because we have a number in this area? Can the easement be placed on those, I mean, 'cause, you know,
Yes.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
right, absolutely.
That
Once
was-
we own
that's
it,
the
then
intent.
there's no issue.
There's a separate process for municipal.
well, because CPF is so heavily regulated. that
Right, once we
Can,
own.
once it's a
Right.
CPF piece, can we then sell an easement?
We're not selling an easement, we're gonna just
Yeah.
consent to the easement.
We're selling the
I don't
easement.
think you can do that.
We're gonna consent to the easement like all the other municipal lands that are,
Yeah,
you know.
the federal government's gonna pay us for the,
We
for
have
our own
properties in
easements.
Village of Quab, we have properties in town of Southampton, the county of Suffolk.
I'm just
It's
so
all
used to
within that FIM
complications
area.
with CPF properties.
State of New York, you know, has a tremendous amount of properties in the West Hampton Beach Dune area, so that's.
All right,
So just to give an overview where we're at now, in terms of our local stuff, I think we already kind of know, we're in the process of, you folks awarded contracts to surveyors, and all those surveyors' contracts are in some form of either being issued or they're underway.
We have 6 executed out of 7, and the last one should be coming in hopefully by the end of the week.
So then we're giving those folks 3 to 6 months, maybe less than 6 months, but
They
3
have 90 days
from the date of
from the
proceed.
date that we give them a notice to proceed, and we've sent out 4 notices to proceed.
Yeah, so the
I was
surveys are,
at 2 today.
surveys are happening as we speak.
Right.
Right, so we're hoping that by the fourth quarter, you know, October, November, December, somewhere in that frame, all of the surveys will be complete. The next step, when the surveys are complete, is that we hire appraisals, and I think you're gonna be awarding contracts for your appraisers soon, right?
Yeah, we
Yes.
have the appraisers pretty much lined up, they, you know.
Right.
We've tried to use a lot of the same appraisers that have been involved with the FEMI project, the Fire Island project with the county, so they have that understanding of what is required from the federal government to do
Right.
the yellow book.
Let's make sure those
appraisal.
appraisers are aware of the court decision related to the public
No, yeah,
easement.
no, they are, they're very familiar.
Right,
Because as
it's like
far
an
as,
easement on an easement
as
almost.
far as I'm concerned, there's a, general public right-of-way to pass and repass
Right.
that has not been challenged, that exists, the Dolphin Lane decision, and,
As well as the homeowner.
they're
down to
putting
High Tide
sand
Park.
within on an easement, it's an easement on an easement, right? And that could, have a tremendous impact in terms of value.
I think Jim's gonna have that conversation with the appraisers before
Yeah,
they,
yeah. And they, most of them understand that. The relationship, this Dongan extends throughout the whole South.
Yeah.
We're not the only town with the Dongan.
Right, but this isn't the Dungan Patton we're
What?
talking about.
This is a jurisdictional issue, though.
Well,
High
it
Tide
came out of
Park
it.
has-
Dungan Patton
has
is
a
in favor of the
weird
trustees, this decision
line.
is in favor of the town, right, Aaron?
Right, yeah, Dolphin Lane is in favor of the people of the town of Southampton.
so anyway, so then, hopefully
I'm the
these,
geologist, you
hopefully
can't
these
be
appraisers,
Talking about
appraisals
the
get
same.
settled.
Never the twain shall meet.
And then there'll be a handful of people that are not settled. And Jim, maybe, or Kelly, maybe you wanna talk about just the timeline on what that happens then.
They don't accept the offer, well, they could.
More than a
Jim,
handful,
that's not
probably.
right, but
Probably
then-
more than a handful, okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but then, they could accept an advance payment, and then we would go to the court, and then what we would hope would happen was the court would vest the easement in the town, so we could at least obtain the easement, and then we would still have to litigate about the money and how much the easement is worth, but at least we would be able to get our easement and get that recorded, and then we could work out the situation with the homeowner and how much they are entitled to, after the fact.
Right, so you can have the project can actually get started as we fight over
Right.
the monies.
Well, that's good to know.
It is, yeah.
And, Sean, correct me if I get something wrong, but in the project participation agreement, there's a specific sequence that the town needs to follow, and Jim and Kelly are well aware of this. Provided we follow that sequence, which is to get the appraisals approved by the Corps prior to the offering, if it does end up going to court, whatever the court's decision is, the Army Corps will reimburse us for,
Right,
as long as we
that's-
follow that procedure.
Right, remember, I got hung up on this for a while, but that's, as to my knowledge, has been resolved.
Yes.
As long as they sign off initially on the valuation, if a new evaluation is determined by a judge, it's on the federal government to pay the differential.
Yeah, and that's the typical language, and I'm not looking at the PPA right now, but a stipulated settlement, right, from a judge is gonna be what will be reimbursable.
Right.
Okay, thank
So
you.
if that ends up being $1 million over fair market value, that would be reimbursed.
Right.
That's,
Well,
that's
essentially,
very
that is-
important, because, we're, have limited means here, so.
The ultimate determination value is
I was gonna
rests
ask if
with the
it's
judge.
undervalued, what it
He that judge determines what fair market value is.
Right.
And that's about it, where we are right
And
now.
that's also appealable too, though, right? If we get a bad decision that we
Yeah.
think
So we can-
is arbitrary, we can challenge.
We can go to the appellate division, okay, so
It's not likely, I mean, I don't know how many appeals there are from, there are some, but usually it's able to be worked out.
I've had a few, when I was in the AG's office, I had a couple that we went to the appellate division, or people went to the appellate division on cases that we won, you know. I never had to go to the appellate division, I was.
it's in everybody's interest to do this, and particularly
Yeah.
these owners, so,
Right.
you know,
The
that needs to
longer-
be stressed.
Right, but nothing can be started, no sand can be
Oh, you're-
placed
you're
until we
adorable,
have
John.
all the easements. So it is really important for homeowners to
Thanks, Yoda, Simi
cooperate.
Underwood.
Right.
I think, for those, people listening, we should underscore the fact that there must be unanimity on the easements, or otherwise the project cannot progress,
Right.
period.
No, we have to have the easements,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, that's what Kelly mentioned earlier, that you hope that, you know, if they accept the advance payment, which, if anybody's gonna contest it, they're obviously
It's
gonna
kinda
accept,
crazy, cause
they accept
you're
advance payment
increasing the
first.
value of their home
And
Well,
then
also,
they,
you know,
overall.
their property taxes are based on the assessed valuation of their properties. You know, some people may
Yeah,
have
we-
unrealistic expectations of
We don't wanna
value.
go there
but
right now.
They should remember that that's how we also assess property taxes,
Mm,
based on
it's a
value.
very interesting concept.
Especially if, well, I'm gonna stop.
So,
Tax cert combination lawyer, whatever, it's a two separate theories of value.
all right,
So,
so,
just for the public,
Stuff is
so we
worth
do
it.
have, some surveyors have already been out there surveying, and that will be continuing through the summer. And we did send out letters to all the homeowners, at their addresses that we have on file with the town. And we did receive a lot of responses from homeowners and their agents, giving us, you know, their contact information was really helpful, because then surveyors can contact them directly, or their caretakers or agents, to arrange for access. So we really appreciate that, and that will be helpful for appraisals as well. So the appraisers can contact the homeowners to arrange for access, so it works for everyone. And if anyone's listening that hasn't been contacted, that believes that they are within, the area where we need an easement, you can contact the town and just let us know. Give us your phone number, email, that would be really, really helpful. And, also on our website, we do have, a presentation, we'll post this presentation, on the website. If you go to the town website and you search for FIMP, everything FIMP should come up.
all right, any other questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Mark. Thank you.
I think I'm in an eligible area for using my house.
You should take advantage of it.
I don't think you are.
Well,
You're not in the
it's
10-year
only the
floodplain.
10-year
It looks
floodplain,
like it.
it's not the 100-year, it's a 10-year floodplain.
It's 10-year? Okay,
So,
yeah. I think I'm,
reducing the
I
slope.
think
So
I'm.
when they
re-
were talking
There's-
about
I'm removed from
stockpiling
that.
while the ocean dredge is out there,
Yeah.
would it be possible to
Trying to do
stockpile
updates
for
now,
our
'cause,
ACDs?
Janice is coming
Or would they
in
not
12,
be
you have some
involved
time.
because they're just not involved?
Where would you put it? I guess.
Well, yeah. The only
Because you've
area-
already surveyed the sand, right? You know where you want to pull from.
But with the stockpile, here's what happens, once they build this project, it's very robust. If there's gonna be any damage where it needs to be rebuilt, that's gonna qualify for emergency action. The area that is really dicey is, as
Yeah.
Jay was pointing out.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna stockpile sand, we wanna.
Well, no,
think
I'm talking
that.
about our ECDs that aren't in, like, they're not getting sand in FIMP because they don't have
Yeah, they
a barrier beach.
No,
Well, which ECDs
he's
are
the
those?
owner of a piece of property once his own.
Sex bonding.
No, they got their own-
This is also
Yeah,
on.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
That's what I mean, like,
But
would
it
it
is-
save them any
I think
money
it's
to
on
use the
one of
ocean
our
dredge
Oh,
while it's out there?
maybe.
Yeah, we're trying to,
Okay.
line that up.
Right.
We try to coordinate that as best we can.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely
Is there an
economies of
area
scale.
where you can stockpile some?
No, you don't, because it's, you never wanna pick it up
You
again.
just buy it directly from
You
Darden.
want it piped exactly to where it's going.
So you're basically, you're trying to
All right,
time the
Mr. Beach?
ECD project with the
Mr.
FIMP.
Beach, Dr. Beach.
No, there's already a Dr. Beach, and it's already taken. I had to use
Yeah,
Mr. Beach.
I know
He's the
him.
guy who does the ratings,
Yeah, I'm still waiting on Bunklock, but
does the ratings of all the beaches. in the
Oh, like who
country.
gets the?
Cooper's makes it every
Cooper's like-
year.
He's a big
Does he
Cooper's
live there?
beach
I don't know
guy.
if he's ever been
No,
to
he's down in
Bunklock.
Florida or something. He lives down in-
No, he lives south. He's
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, he likes Cooper's.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do a couple updates, because at noon we have a affordable housing zone change request. All right, so first thing I'll mention is the Suffolk County Water Authority is hosting a public education forum, which will be held on Wednesday, June 21st at 6 p.m. This is at the Rogers Memorial Library regarding our underground aquifer system and the quality of our groundwater supply and drinking water. The public is welcome to participate and bring questions. You can also attend virtually at scwa.com. So again, that's going to be Wednesday, the 21st, which is, I believe, next Wednesday, at 6 p.m. at the Rogers Memorial Library here in Southampton Village. Another reminder is that Monday, this is the upcoming Monday, June 19th, is Juneteenth. And Town Hall and other administrative offices will be closed. I believe the schools are also closed that day. It's a national holiday, it's a state holiday, and the town is honoring Juneteenth as well. There's a lot of Juneteenth happenings around town, including here in the village and at the Bridgehampton Child Care Center. So you can consult your local papers and the internet for different events commemorating really the end of slavery. So other updates, I did have a bit of a call this morning about whales with the various federal and state agencies and the Atlantic Marine Conservation groups. There happens to be a minke whale that was spotted that is likely a dead or beyond medically treatable whale that was seen in the Bridgehampton area last night. We actually have no reports of it washing ashore, so it's, if anybody has information about the location of that whale.
I think there's also a 400-pound great white out there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that may find the
That may have
whale.
found the minke whale.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not a large minke whale, it's a relatively small whale. It sounds oxymoronic, a small whale, but as far as
Minke whales are
whales
rare
go,
and
it's
small.
relatively small. If we're able to find its location, we can, attempt to bring it onto the beach and do a necropsy if it is deceased, or euthanize it if it's not. My understanding is that it's beyond, the condition is not, if it is alive, won't be able to be saved. But there's all these procedures in place, including notifying the Shinnecock Nation, trustees if it's on our township, or East Hampton trustees if it's in their township, various federal agencies. We have to be mindful of piping plover, nesting areas. We have to have the proper equipment to bring it to shore that in a way that doesn't endanger the men and women who are part of that operation. We are trying to develop a set of protocols for dealing with beach whales. So I've asked Robert DiGiovanni from the Atlantic Marine Conservation Center to put a draft together that we can sort of route to our public safety and bay constables and police and other agencies, and so we can maybe have a document in place for the future, because
Marine
people
Patrol.
may not be aware of all of the different notifications that have to happen and permissions, if it's a county beach, a state beach, and then who pays for it at the end, who pays the disposal costs.
Marine Patrol has already drafted something, so perhaps they could just work
Yeah,
together.
they can work together. They were not on the call. Rich Frank originally was supposed to be, but I think he had a conflict, so was not able to attend, but ongoing conversation. Janice, are you ready for the 12 o'clock, or do you want to, I could kill another 10 minutes.
Seems to be here, so
What?
they're not here.
They're not here, so
We'll
we'll,
just go through the rest of our updates.
yeah, we can keep going through some additional updates. I attended Flag Day, Hampton Bays yesterday. It was a very nice ceremony with the the second graders in Hampton Bays, under the choral director, did a really great program. And we honored a vet, I think Michael McAndrews, but also it was Flag Day too, so there was a really nice celebration of our flag's birthday. I spoke, a number of people spoke, representatives, and I think it was filmed, so maybe it'll be on CTV. If you weren't there, you can see it. You guys have updates that you want to share while I look to see if there's anything
I
else?
just have
on
one.
the
I
list?
just wanted to update everyone on, Colleen from CRC did a lot of work on our Hometown Heroes program, and Paula in my office had a great idea from going to different historic sites and being able to listen to them read, information about things. So she worked with CRC, and Ryan Horn has recorded, with Charles's help, the bios of the veterans. So now when you go to the park, you can scan the QR code and you can click on the banner and you can actually listen to Ryan read you the bio of the veteran, which, helps those with disabilities as well. I just thought it was a really
My
nice
pleasure.
thing to do. Thank you, Charles.
That voice. So moving forward, I've had a number of people ask if they can get a banner. So are we waiting for another group of banners, or?
These banners stay up until Veterans Day, and then they come down, and then we'll put up another whole group of banners Memorial Day next year. That'll stay up until Veterans Day, so it basically gets done annually.
Okay. You can order anytime?
So
moving
they,
forward?
they closed ordering, they'll open them again soon, we'll put it on the website when ordering is open, or they can contact, Jamie. So, she can give them a date if they want.
Okay, great. So I have a couple things. Last Friday night was the 20th anniversary of the Battle of the Bands at Ponquag Beach in Hampton Bays. Very well attended, 5 bands this year. So I'm gonna have to I stayed for a while, but I didn't see the winning band. So the winning band was DEKA of West Hampton Beach in Southampton. Endless Summer came in second, Hampton Bays and West Hampton kids. And Atomic Pineapple was third, and they're from Hampton Bays and Santa Barbara. It's, being the old guy sitting in the corner, listen to the bands, I really enjoy that they play some of the older music that I recognize. I love the camaraderie of the kids, some of these bands are so popular in the high schools and locally that when, the lead singers or the guitar player come walking up, they really have that admiration from their peers. It's a lot of fun to watch,
Rock
and it's
stars.
really, it's a good night. We had a lot of fun. Second up, we're only a couple weeks away from our summer concert series from Parks and Recreation. So the East Quogue Village Green Series starts June 27th. I believe it'll be Mean Gene and the Flamethrowers as the first band. And June 29th in Thursdays in Good Ground Park, we start with Southbound. And so that'll, hopefully the weather helps out, and we'll have a great summer series.
I should have specified for everybody listening who doesn't know who Jamie is, when they contact Jamie. It's Jamie Bowden if they're looking her up on the website.
A couple more things I'll mention. We held it's been an annual thing at Good Ground Park. We've been doing a vigil. Do you have something, John?
No, I don't actually.
All right, so at
Not now.
Good Ground Park, we've been doing a vigil every year. Started out, it was for those who lives were cut short through overdoses of heroin and opioids, and it was a way sort of to come together and also help heal and sort of bring it out of the shadows, but also to maybe get resources to people who could use some help. And it wasn't heavily attended this year, so we have to figure out how to get more people at it. It was a really nice, for those who were there, it was a really nice event, very heartfelt, and I'd like to see it keep going, but I do hope that more people take advantage of it, because addiction is always gonna be an issue, but these, fentanyl is such a, it's a one and done kind of thing. It's, people, if they're first time users and they're overdosing on fentanyl. It's just, it's very sad, so, but, you know, police chief was there, and Kim Labby was there. A number of other people were there.
I think
Drew
Hug,
Scott
doesn't
came.
Hug, I think Hugs funds the musician and the
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah, good music. It was a nice event. I just hope that in the future we get more people there. I went to Nathaniel Rogers' house for sort of it was really sort of their first big show there. And they honored actually some of the people who were critical during the pandemic, including some of you know Tony from the post office in Bridgehampton. But you know, the school, you know, and other people received awards. Well, it's actually really nice that they did their first show is up, and you know, the museum is now fully functional. So if you want to visit the Nathaniel Rogers house, you know, the town painstakingly engaged in a historic restoration. It's right on the corner of Ocean and 27 in Bridgehampton by the monument, across from Topping Rose House and near Almonds Restaurant. You can't miss the building. It's a beautiful building. So take advantage of it and go in and see it. Tommy John and I went to Noyak Civic last night. They're really obviously concerned about airport noise with the November route. They were happy we sent the letter to East Hampton expressing our displeasure with the reinstatement of the November route. You know, when the flights were not going that route, and they were using the Echo and the Sierra routes, the water-based routes last year, it provided really meaningful relief. And, you know, for the first time, people could hear the birds, you know, and they could hear each other have conversations. So, the one thing that we got into, because they understand that the town of Southampton, it's not our airport, and we're not making these decisions. East Hampton is sort of saying it's really not them, it's the Eastern Helicopter Council. So I said that I would agree to do my best to see if we can get a representative of the Eastern Helicopter Council to come here to Southampton and hear from our residents the impact that they're experiencing, with the hope that, you know, understanding the hell basically that people are going through, that maybe they would look to a fairer distribution. It's a recommended helicopter route, but it's not mandatory. But the November route brings it over Hampton Bays, it brings it over Watermill, it brings it over Bridgehampton, it brings it over Noyak. And it's really destroying the quality of life for an awful lot of people. And so we're gonna try to first see if they were willing to send a rep out here. And then we have to find a location big enough, because I think a lot of people are gonna wanna come out. So my job is to see if I can get at least a representative of that council to come to our community within a reasonable amount of time. So, so we're gonna work on that. Elliston Park is going to be finished soon. If you haven't seen the work that's going on at Elliston Park, I suggest you go and take a look at all the retaining walls and walkways. It's coming out really nice, and it'll definitely be finished this month, in time for the summer season. And if you haven't seen the development of the Windsor Heart out in front of Town Hall, take a look at that too, because that's really coming together beautifully. And we are on schedule. We have to do some regrading and sodding, and there'll be other elements in the future in terms of plantings and things like that. But we're on schedule for June 26th for the opening of the Heart. And it's gonna be at noon, and we expect a fair number of people to be there, and it should be a really nice event, and I hope that the whole town board can go and show the town's support for this memorial for really important woman who lived in our community for 40 years, who really opened the door for marriage equality through her challenge of the Defense of Marriage Act at the Supreme Court level and won. So that'll happen June 26th at noon. All right, so speaking of at noon, John, just first, I just want to double check, did you have any updates?
Not anymore.
Well, you can do it.
No, no, we got people sitting here.
Okay, we can do your updates if you want after this presentation. All right, so we're gonna move on. It's noon, and Janice Shearer is here, our Town Planning and Development Administrator. And Janice, you're joined by a number of people. They're gonna sit in the audience, or are they coming up? I see.
How would you like me to proceed, Mr.
Why don't we leave, David, why don't you stay there, Zach, stay there, and then we'll have you probably present from the podium when it's time, but Janice, why don't you introduce this?
Hand out a draft.
So this is a request for a zone change
Yes.
related to affordable housing.
Just leave one for Jim. And you can see that here on the wall is the location, it's 1100.
And just remind me from the legal perspective, this is a two-step process. First, we have to
You have to
decide
elect
whether
to
we're
consider.
willing to consider a
Yes.
hearing on a zone change.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is the work session that occurs as part of that process, where at the culmination of this, you decide whether or not you want to consider it. Sometimes in the past, when you may recall NRP came in and they said like 180, and you were like, we're only gonna consider 104. Like, and that doesn't mean you're gonna end up at that number, but that's all you would consider. So sometimes you use it to say,
Conditional consideration.
yeah, exactly. So, thank you for having me this morning. This is a change of zone work session application, for the location is 1100 Majors Path in North Sea. The lot area of the parcel is 8.855 acres. And it's on the east side of Majors Path, just near about 1,000 feet from SYS. And just close to the school district parcel. It's also near a parcel we all know as Kutchuk, or, now the name escapes me.
Is it the one by the school?
It was a PDD, it was a North Sea PD, mixed use
Oh, I was
PDD,
saying
I'm
this-
sorry, it's just two parcels to the north of a previous,
Yeah,
proposal long ago that was,
there's a housing complex
A
that has
housing,
some affordable housing.
exactly. So I will leave it to the applicant to really, lay out what, and his representative, what they wanna do, but it's really just requesting 100% affordable rental housing at 4 units an acre, which would result in 34, units. And the request for the actual zoning district would be multifamily 44, which is a floating district that people can come and request, and then you land it on a parcel.
So currently, before they bring it, just some baseline questions. So right now, it's CR 200, which is 5 acre, right?
Correct.
So, and it's 8 acres, so you get only one house here, right?
Pretty much.
You get one house,
Well,
and you
8
could get
acres.
an accessory
No,
apartment.
You get more than that.
Is it 5? It's 5 acres
CR
zoning?
200, I would just have to do, it's 377,000 square feet, so you'd get two, sorry.
You get 2 houses, and each could have an apartment.
Each could have an apartment.
So,
So
Four
is-
carriage house.
Is the applicant working with Cara at all on this?
Well, they can, but right now,
It
the
might
first
be-
step is to work
yeah,
with my
but-
office to get through this process, and we will loop her into it as
Yeah,
if you.
I think going forward it would be good.
now, is this also APOD, aquifer protection?
It
overlay?
is. So there's clearing restrictions here.
On page 8, 6 of 8.
So I'm assuming
They
that
would have to
there'd
meet the
be,
clearing. They would.
so the 200 acre, so are they proposing more clearing than they would normally do if building those 2 houses? Probably a little bit more?
Yeah, I
and
think
then-
it's best to see the layout, and
Okay.
then we can get into those
And
questions,
then I
'cause that
also,
would be
obviously,
easier.
you need sewage treatment here.
Yes.
To get the nitrogen not to exceed what it would have been as well.
That's right.
Okay.
So with that, I'm not sure that you brought elevations and site plans before you did?
I did.
Okay, very good. So, Dave, you wanna take it up?
Is that gonna be on the screen, or you're gonna hand those out?
We have handouts that we can put in front of
We have
Okay.
handouts,
Or
but-
full-size documents.
Okay,
Easy
okay.
reading.
All
and
right,
we can
thanks.
have Charles digitize them and add them to
Great.
this.
And sir, what is your name?
My name's Michael Schnurr. I'm with the architectural firm GRCH Architecture.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I was gonna introduce him, but he's already done it. And then the property owner is Zach Epley, who owns the property with his wife Brittany, who he didn't bring, which I think is a problem. But we'll try and remedy that as we go forward. But I think Janice gave you a pretty good outline. So I guess why don't we get to it and have Mike come up and show you know, what are preliminary plans. Obviously, it's a two-step process. You elect to consider, then we come in for the change of zone, and, you know, you get a lot of bites at this apple. But so this is just, you know, really preliminary on the plans, and we would take what your advice on changes and that sort of thing. So
Sure.
keep that in mind as you take a look at it. And Mike, is it okay if Mike comes up to the table and lays it
I
out for you?
apologize, I don't have an easel, but I could lay all the plans out right.
Yeah, you
front.
can come up.
That's okay?
That's, I'm okay
Yeah,
with
push
that.
buttons, do if you want.
Sure. I know the site engineer's not here, however, I did bring the site plan as well
Right.
for some clarity. So here's the site proposed project.
Yeah.
This, I have, we have developed just the front and side elevation, and we have some floor plans here as well for you to look at. So, as was said, it's 34 proposed units. I believe there's 5 clusters, 5 buildings, 2-story buildings on slab, no basements, and they're basically designed in a shingle style, natural looking way to fit in with the current town environment. So there's shingles, roofing, and board and batten, some balconies, etc. Slide you to see the plans. So these are unit over unit. So you have your upstairs unit. It isn't a townhouse. It's a unit over unit. Staircase is accessible to the upper unit. The ground floor. This is the ground floor. These are
So
ADA accessible.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
So when you say unit over unit, so it's a separate unit upstairs?
Correct, right, flats units.
It's
You
not
have-
like the kitchen's downstairs and the
No,
bedroom's
it's not a
upstairs?
townhouse.
Do they
Yes.
have doorways individual?
Absolutely, yes. So for instance, on your ground floor here, the main entry, let's say take the N unit, your main entry to this unit's off to the side. And then when you have your upper unit, that's the entry up here to go to the upstairs.
Right, so everybody has an outside access.
Absolutely,
Very
yes.
important.
And downstairs, obviously being under building code flats units, these are ADA accessible units, or adaptable units, pardon me. And then the upstairs is more of your standard unit. There's no elevator to the upstairs, obviously. So like I said, they've done this particular unit, which has been laid out right now, happens to be this central building right now. That was the design at the moment. Some of these units are applicable to this. In other words, they go together to form the buildings. I'm uncertain if at the time, I think there's only one unit actually that hasn't been designed yet that would fit in here. So that makes up all of the clusters for each
So
of
they, what,
these 5 buildings.
two bedrooms, or?
These are, yes, I believe both upstairs and down are 2 bedrooms. Let me see, that's correct. They're essentially the same units stacked over each other, except downstairs we take into the account the ADA adaptability. So you need more room.
So all the units are 2 bedrooms, or some 1 bedroom, or?
I believe,
Some are one.
right, there's gonna be some ones, right?
What's
You
the
have-
mix? Oh, it's a proposed mix, so obviously that's up for you.
It's a proposed mix, mostly 2-bedroom, a few 1-bedroom on there. So I thought there was maybe 12 1-bedrooms, and then
Actually, let me see, it might actually be written down on the site plan, the site engineer. may
It's
have
a
indicated
total of
that.
32 units? is that-
34 units.
34, and they're broken into clusters of no more than 8 as per code. We have outdoor entrances on it all, and we're trying to keep it
It
as
says
condensed.
8
Oh, there we
ones
go.
and 26 twos.
Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
Where's your sewage treatment?
Gotta be careful of the microphone.
Sorry, Joe, thank you.
Okay.
I see it here. And this is just.
And that
Rich's
triangle,
remain-
that cutout, there's
That's gonna
a,
remain undeveloped and
that triangle that's cut out there, there's a home there, correct?
Mm-hmm,
No.
It's right here,
yes.
This.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's in-
I mean, how close is your sewage treatment to that home? It seems like it's closer to that home than to your homes.
It meets all the setbacks, it's the same to their house, it's probably, the house is probably a little
It's
farther.
to the property line,
It's to the
that's the
property
outer,
line.
outer ring, not to their house.
So,
But it
But
could
again,
obviously be shifted.
But, yeah, honestly, this is a preliminary plan where we can shift that a little bit if we have to.
is there a pre-existing
Well,
structure?
I'm just, yeah, wondering
I'm
why it's
showing
not-
one on the map.
Why you didn't pick the other side for your sewage treatment?
What, is there anything there?
Pre-existing structure on
topography,
your
Jack.
property though, correct?
No, there's nothing, it's all
Oh, you mean
undeveloped
the
right
other,
now.
like the
Really?
point?
Because I'm showing a
Yeah.
I think it'd be too close to the
No,
road.
that's
there's-
right
there's
here
no-
on
No,
the
there's-
adjacent lot.
There's actually another house
Right,
there
right,
too.
Right.
Yeah.
There's two
There's a
little
house.
houses on the cutouts, there's one,
Here, yeah.
here and then one there, and then
Yeah, this is
everything
showing
behind
a
is
lar-
undeveloped,
a
and then
larger
this
structure.
property is owned by the school right now, and it's
The
designated.
old-
Yeah, they were looking at one day maybe putting fields there, but the enrollment's been down in the school, so right now there's
Fields?
no, property. That's actually the one that, with the SYS, when they were looking to do like the hockey rink years ago and stuff, that was kind of the idea of using that lot. and
Actually,
taking
they
it, so-
got that lot as part of that zone change I
That's straight
mentioned
path.
earlier.
That was used-
part of
that's-
the
But
North
what,
Fishing
what
Bowl.
happened, was the
PUD.
school was looking at selling that lot, but I don't think they can,
They can't sell it.
right?
They can't sell it, and then they can't develop it, it can only be designated
For
for
fields or-
fields or
School use.
use.
It's not on the same
So
property.
that's why the idea of like, when they were looking at the hockey,
Showing
but
up right-
that's never gonna happen.
right
So that could have been the indoor pool.
Yeah, cause I know just recently though, they were looking to
That's-
hire, a real estate agent to
Where it
sell
is.
it to
Yes,
offset
yeah.
the
South
business
Street.
office, but that couldn't happen.
Yeah,
No,
maybe it
yeah, they
could be-
can't do that, they
could
have
be
to
the
hold on
story.
to it, it's all.
It can only be used for recreation?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I wonder if that could have been a viable site for that indoor pool.
But it's schools, districts.
Yeah, oh, I see, yeah, well, it could be a
Well, they could have
school
a school
and,
pool.
yeah,
And
on the weekends it's public. But anyway, so I didn't realize that that was restricted to athletic types of facilities.
Yeah. Which the school has no plan, I mean, because the enrollment keeps going down.
it's actually codified, which is weird because it's a school district, but, I think they granted with restrictions on it.
And it was created as part of this,
It was part of that whole public
You have
benefit
more of
pack
these?
back in the day when we had
So did the
PDDs.
school own this
It's on your-
property as
it's on
well?
your- It's in the next page of your report.
I mean, that's okay, it's more detailed perhaps
Yeah.
than we need for, it really just goes back to like, again, it's too detailed at this point where the sewage treatment goes, but we don't want to impact the neighbor more than we'd impact the homes that Mr. Epley would be building, so.
Yeah, so the questions today are really, is this something the board has an appetite in considering? It is 100% affordable proposal rentals, correct?
Yeah,
If you
I-
wanna like go expand.
Yeah,
upon-
so originally I bought the property
Why don't
2
you
years ago.
sit down, or, yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
sit
Zach,
down.
you wanna
Yeah.
stand around?
Yeah, stand around. Originally I bought the property 2 years ago with my wife, and we designed a house for ourselves to move out there, and it's a pretty big house, we're sitting there. We have 4 young kids, and we was like, we're never gonna be able to pack up and move with everything and rent, so, I get calls every day from people looking for apartments, places to live and stuff, so we decided like, what could be the best impact with the community, and that's what we thought, like, let's try a affordable route. Rentals is what we wanna do on the property, cause I feel like there's such a need, I'm a coach at the high school, against the, fire department, I mean, there's a group of young people, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, I'm preaching to the choir, what we need out here. So we thought it was identified as a good location for it, it's kinda off of any main roads, it's a big lot, the density is not crazy for the property that's there, the SYS is around the corner, it's a lot of preserved land around, and it's, it meets a need of what
This
we
would be
need.
100% affordable.
So we would do it 100% affordable, and we'd keep it all rentals, and we would, we'd rent it out
And
to
would
the
you
community.
manage it
We
through our
would-
program?
I talked to Kara about it, we would either running through your program, or we would manage it privately, and then we would keep it up to your standards. She said something you do is like, a walkthrough, maybe like once a year, just to make sure
Well, we just
that,
wanna make sure that the
um,
rents you're charging are
Yeah, it would be all to the county.
And the people who are renting are qualified
Yeah.
income-wise.
Yeah, so it'd be all to
And
the
there's been
county.
new HUD rules too,
Yes.
so.
And we know the income levels and stuff, we looked at it all, we looked at the rental amounts on what, we can get for each one, and, you know, my goal is school teachers, you know, doctors, people that, in the community that we need. You know, I sit on the board of hospice, I've, you know, had conversations with them, they're like, oh, we need places for nurses, you know, to live, things like that, so that's our goal, and then, you know, the original meeting with Kara was something we'd have to work out with them to keep it up to code, so make sure it stays up to par with with your guys' standards, and making sure that it's regulated, and making sure the right people are getting it.
And are you amenable to like sort of redesigning it?
Yeah,
layout-wise?
this is just the preliminary plan that we had laid out with you guys, and you guys did a great job, I thought, on the original plan with how it flows, with the traffic, with the in and out, and kind of in the circle. We know we have to keep it to the 8 units
Yeah.
per building, and, you know, separate entrances and stuff, but we can adjust. I mean, if you guys felt like this wasn't the proper, we could move it over.
Well, you just sort of have like a sea around
Yeah,
and like
the-
one just floating in the middle,
reason-
and I, you know, like, there's some stuff I would
Yeah,
recommend.
the reason we chose this part of the property is just the elevations.
Yeah.
The other part of the property would be a little harder to do the work, we'd have to bring in some fill, and, you know, it's a little over, but you can get creative with it, but this is the flat area. This is actually where we had the house designed as well. I think we had put in an application for a building permit, I don't know if.
You know, assuming that's an 8-acre lot in an APOD, Aquifer Protection District, it's contiguous to an awful lot of open space. You have the right, obviously, under current zoning, to build a house, and if you did, you'd have a certain amount of clearing. It's a big lot, so I imagine it's sort of an estate lot with a pool and tennis courts, that kind of thing. You know, multi-car garage. Do you know how much you'd be clearing if you built that?
Well, to code, you
house?
can clear up to 20% on that lot, I believe, right? With a 5-acre zoning. So if we were building to our lot, or thought it was probably, right? with the
Yeah, it
five-
goes by lot size, and it's
So you think
kind of
you could get 2
counterintuitive,
lots
because
there?
the bigger lot, like, you actually get to clear less, and that's people's main concern with
Yeah,
APU.
so
But you could get 2 lots here, is that what you
Yes.
think? I'm not sure. At 8 acres, at
Yeah, I mean,
5 acres?
the house,
I'm not sure.
the house that was designed was, you know, 10,000 square feet, you know, it was a big house.
So so my question is, are you able to do the affordable housing within sort of the same cleared area that you'd be allowed to if you were building houses? You know?
Yeah, so
you
do
know.
you need a relief on the clearing restrictions is one of the questions there.
It
It
would.
just makes it's an easier argument to support it
Well-
if I know that if it's gonna just be McMansions, you're still gonna have the same amount of clearing.
We'll take a look at that. I would think it's gonna be right, almost in the same ballpark, maybe take a little bit. You know, the one thing that handcuffs us a little bit is having to do separate structures. We have to do 8 per building. You know, if it was all in one building, you'd be able to condense a little bit more, but we wanna keep it to the code on that.
So the total occupancy is 8 units, what, how, 30?
It's 34 units
30.
with a mix of 8, well, this is proposed. 34 units are proposed, with 8 being 1-bedroom and 26 of them being 2-bedroom. The total design flow is 7,650 gallons per day.
Okay, so you'd need a system.
Yeah.
And not a.
They're showing one,
not
but
an
obviously
IA
that's subject
system.
to, now the code requires them to have a maximum of 8 per building. You could obviously, you know, consider changes to that. You can always go to the ZBA if you supported something like that.
And then other
Um,
sustainability practices, solar, other things like that that you would consider on this?
I would consider that. I'd even consider, I know that you guys are looking at a big solar project on the dump right now, which I know you were trying to do the roof at the SYS, but
The roof
would
is-
need to be replaced
can't
to put it
handle
in.
weight.
So that's something that I would even work with you guys if you wanted to try to link some of that project into this. It's right there anyway, and you guys are doing it right on the road, so I
Perfect,
could
yeah.
work with you guys on that, and, you know, if you install and put it in, you can take the,
It's
take
just,
the solar.
it's just
put it in.
access, those costs, you know, those
Yeah,
are hard.
Can I ask, why 34 units?
Because it, with the, it's gotta be 4 per acre.
Where does that come from, 4 per acre?
It's four per 11,000 in MF 44. I mean,
Well, it's
one per 11,000, 4 per acre, excuse me.
4 per acre, so that zoning district allows,
That's MF 44. That's what they're going, one unit for every 11,000 square feet is the calculation.
Unless you guys wanna do more.
no, I know, I was,
Yeah, I'm open to more if that's.
I wasn't pushing for more. I mean, I know we need the units,
How
but
many units are there in Sandy Hollow?
28.
That's also a smaller piece, that's
Yeah.
only 2 acres. over
Yeah.
there.
It's not an aquifer protection piece, though.
And you spoke with Kara about this, right, Kara?
Yeah.
Kara was a part of the initial.
Okay,
Yeah.
so did she talk to you about the lottery, if you use the
Yeah,
lottery
yeah,
system?
we
and
talked
all
about that stuff with the lottery and the system
All
and
right.
and making sure people are.
Yeah, I think that's important for the very reasons you
Yeah,
started out
And
talking about.
she, I almost speak, but, we talked about like, the private ownership with the partnership there, and, it'd be stuff we'd work
It'll
out
be
in
a
the
diverse
detail.
community.
Yeah.
If you know the Epley family, it'll be a diverse community.
So just in terms of density, so the Sandy Hollow, the Sandy.
I do know some of the Epley family.
Then you
One of them
know.
I know pretty well, sitting right here.
It'll be diverse.
So Sandy Hollow was definitely higher units per acre than this, but it wasn't aquifer protection, and it probably would have only been one house there too on the zoning. Instead, it ended up being 28 apartments. Maybe it would have been 2 houses on that property.
Long story short, that was another PDD that was like 16 units, and then they came back and asked for the conversion of those condos to apartments, and one condo is not the same thing as an apartment, so they translated the 16 into 28. So, long story short, that's,
That-
how we
that
got
took
there,
off, yeah.
because they already had a different approval initially for 16 condos.
Mhm.
And then for each condo, so we didn't
Spiancom
quite double
is-
it, but it was a
Well,
little more.
Spiancom's is 38 units on 4 acres.
It was originally proposed larger.
It is, and so, you
I
have
mean,
to
4
come
units an
to,
acre isn't a high density, it's quarter acre density. It's just that it's currently zoned 1 house per 5 acres, so it's a big divergence from current zoning.
Depends on how big your family is.
Well, but
A lot of efforts.
but also under the HUD rules, it's actually gonna be, more attractive to someone to build affordable housing based on the income from this that's offset through HUD, so it's actually kinda cool what's happening. I hope it encourages more of this kind of development. so.
Anyway, where I'm going is, will you consider a lesser density?
We'll
If
talk
the
about
board,
it, but I think you have to consider it with the amount of property that's preserved in the area. So if you take a look beyond the lot and you look at the area, there's not a large density in that particular area based on what's been preserved. But
that's not what I'm arguing, there's a
I'm
lot
not
of open
arguing.
space there. And that's another consideration here, is the design is sort of cutting into that open space. It's
Yeah,
not pushing
Janice,
everything
that-
toward the
That
center.
development just to the south, how many units is that PDD?
That's ours, right?
no, we have some units in there through it's,
Oh, right.
a lot. I mean, I don't know the numbers.
Do you know the
Usually
density
the magic
there?
number was always 50 because of the chromoglass systems in the past. It was always 300 gallons per day equals 15,000 equals 50 units. That's basically how we always arrived at 50, when that number always is.
And that's actually a smaller lot than we have too.
So I would guess it's around 50, but
And that
I
was a
don't know for
junkyard.
sure. I'd have to look
That
at,
replaced the junkyard.
It replaced the
Mm.
junkyard. It was a PDD. There was a multitude of public benefits. We don't have PDDs anymore, but we do have someone who's willing to do affordable housing.
I'm just saying, that's 50
Yeah.
units on a smaller piece of property.
Right.
Just to the south of it.
Yeah,
So you
and-
just have to
So-
decide whether
Yeah.
or not you
And
want
So
this
there's
at all.
layout considerations here too, because if open space is the thing we're protecting, then, you potentially could push it closer to the road,
It's pretty
and,
close.
and preserve more, there's, pretty dense woods back there.
if you provide the goals of what you'd like to see with it, we'll meet it. If you want it to be less buildings, then support an application to the zoning board of appeals that allows us to put more than 8 in one building. Right? There are a multitude of things that we can do here to satisfy what your goals are. Just tell us what the goals are,
Yeah.
try and satisfy.
could
them.
As far as, I mean,
At
we're
the
at the point
34.
right now of just having a consideration, and I
This
mean,
is just
I would
to
consider
see
that.
it for the first
Right,
time and
and,
react to it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get a sense of
Yeah.
changes that you guys could support.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about units and stuff, like I prefer to keep it as much, you know, where there's always consideration. There's cost always associated with building and stuff, and, you know, when we do affordable, you're capped at what the rents are on what you can charge, you know, and you start cutting down units, the costs stay the same, especially because we have to build we know the wastewater treatment plant, and that's gonna be an expensive cost, on there. The other thing too is, there's a lot of trails in the back here, you know, right now, all those people that go hiking on them park right on Major's Path, and they access them down a little bit. We'd be willing to throw a few parking spots in there, if that's something, maybe connect to the trail, so you can get that traffic off of that road, which could be a danger with kids, other things, because some of those trucks are whipping around.
A lot of them park
It's just
over
too,
this way.
for layout
Yeah, they park
purposes.
SYS, or they park down just before Edge of Woods there, and then they cut in,
Yeah.
right there, but that all kinda connects in the back. There's no actual trails on this property that are mapped.
Really? But they're used. I mean,
They're used, but there's nothing on the survey, and people have kind of cut in.
Would you be willing to do like a trail easement if it's appropriate?
Yeah, it'd
on
be something
the
like if they wanted to
woodland
get in
part?
and do
Yeah.
some, so you can get some of those 2 or 3 cars that are parked off the road.
There's nothing from our trail system going
Well,
through
we,
here?
No.
all
No.
this, if you
Interesting.
even consider it, we refer it to everyone. And trails will
Trails will
certainly
look at
be
it,
one of
yeah.
the involved people that we would ask.
Well,
My concern is that intersection with Mary's Lane and Straight Path is a kind of a crazy busy intersection.
Yeah,
So keeping it that way is
yeah. I
better,
think-
but it's also still gonna be an issue, cause I think it's Hecky's right across from it, right?
Yes, yeah, the one, yeah.
And that's where the neighbors I know already came out in mass
Yes.
on that, because, was that 100 units?
Yeah.
120.
Oh, yeah, you would
120?
know.
Yeah.
With remediation costs.
So, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, I say,
It
I
wasn't
mean,
affordable,
I
though.
would, I would consider it at 34 and see what the community says and what the feedback is. But, you know, I hate to cut it down before you can hear from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of pushing it closer to Major's Path somehow, yeah, into that space a little bit, and maximizing the amount of woods. But, I mean, the density, the only issue I have with the density is that you're going from one house per 5 acres to, you know, four houses per 1 acre, so 20 houses per 5 acres, so
But they're not houses, they're
They're
apartments.
apartments,
Each,
yeah, well,
like,
units. So
Four
So one,
units
two-
is one house,
it's
right? If you really
two-story
think about it,
buildings
like 4 apartments is really
with
worth
no
one.
retail.
Well, on its
Depending on
face
the
though, it
size.
seems like,
Yeah, you know.
from
you'd
one
have to
unit,
We need
decide
it.
whether
one
or not
units
this
to
makes
to
sense.
20,
And
one
then
units
each of
to
those
20
having an
units.
ADU.
It's really the only way you're gonna solve this problem, is density.
Oh, 100%. But, you know, so I've been sort of pitching this idea that, yeah, we can increase the density in a way that, you know, other than traffic, is not more environmentally impactful. You know, where we can kind of keep the clearing the same, keep the nitrogen the same as if it would have been developed just as a state property, like this one would largely be an estate property. And potentially even traffic, when you have your workers living in the community and not having to come west, you know, for everything, and, you know, eastbound in the afternoon, you potentially are taking 24 or 30-plus cars off the road by doing this, that they're no longer going west to east now, they're in the community. So I think it potentially, even from a traffic perspective,
And it's a great school district to be in,
yeah.
size-wise.
School district,
and-
and it's walking distance to active recreation. Great trails if you're into hiking, it's an amazing spot.
Making me reconsider the house. Out there, it's,
Well, we're gonna take your current house and we're gonna convert that. It's in the village.
It's in the village.
Village needs affordable housing,
Well,
desperately.
that's a funny comment, because Zach's family also was a former John Ducks, where we approached the planning board, and they didn't receive an affordable housing project there too long. So,
They need sewage treatment in the
Yeah, I mean,
village.
that's kind of what spurred this too, is, you know, I've always wanted, I've got a passion for trying to do this, and I know the need, you know, so we looked looked at the John Duck's property and said, oh, maybe we could do it there. We got kind of just, don't even think about it, you know? So we kind of been sitting and looking in this.
It's an uphill
this.
battle.
Yeah.
You know, Spion Commons was a long haul, and it's now, people talk with a lot of pride about it. You know, people point it out,
Yeah.
and we have some really go-to retail there that was included in that, and it's just become a really, really well-done place.
Yeah.
And it can be done, and it's good to have models to be able to point to and say, this worked, that didn't, to go, you know, to go forward.
That's what we're trying to do is do stuff on this side, you know, on the side of the canal
Yeah,
too,
so
because you know
I-
the traffic is
Yep.
just, you know,
I
trying to get
do.
across the
I think
canal.
that-
I luckily go to West Hampton every day for work, so I.
Well, you're like,
I
great, you're
go
going the
to
right way at
reverse
the
and I
right,
sit
at the
there,
right
I don't know
time.
how these people do it, sitting
Yeah,
there
no.
every day.
Well, look, we certainly can't argue the need for affordable housing. You know, the only questions here is whether this site's appropriate and under what conditions and what density, those types of things. But the need has clearly been well documented and demonstrated and anecdotally seen every morning, right? So I think that's just, if the board, does the board have any more questions about
Just
the
one of
proposal?
items I just wanna repeat that there is some flexibility on where it's located and how we can accomplish it in the building if the board is so inclined to support some application. The reason it's spread out a little is we were limited to 8 per building. We could condense that, and maybe resolve some of the issues that were raised today, you know, through the zoning board of appeals, and we hope you have your support, if you support the
Yeah.
ultimate application.
Well, I would take it to Kara back. I don't think she's seen this, right?
No, she saw the original, so when we
She was in a
originally
meeting
came in
with
to
us.
talk about
Yeah.
it, we actually had just taken the plan that we had from the John Duck's property, which was all one building, and it was interior hall, and put it on here to show, like, this is kind of the idea, and then when we got into the code, you know, we're looking at 8 units a building, and we tried to shape this to the code, but I think it's.
But we'll certainly.
So it's-
we'll
Well,
certainly-
it just-
Kara
to
was in
me-
that meeting.
Or
To
downstairs.
me, it makes
for-
sense to do that, just because she can
Yeah.
offer you some
Would you
insight,
like
particularly
a
on the
written
housing
report
side.
from Kara about this? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
I would also,
necessary.
if you want some immediate feedback on how the neighbors feel about it before it even gets to our level, I would suggest going to the North CCAC.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely. love
I'll
to
send
go down
you, I'll
there.
send
Yeah,
you the link.
Yeah, that would be- that
They
would
meet
be
via
great.
Zoom, so it's
Send me
easy.
the link, and I'd love to get on talk, and,
But yeah,
Because I mean, if you can win that group over,
yeah, I'll bring my wife, she might be related to half of them. Let her touch.
I support moving it forward. I would encourage you to move the sewage treatment a little further away from that homeowner. And also, I'm not in love with the building inside the horseshoe. If there wasn't availability
with you to
to
redesign it.
incorporate that into other buildings, that'd be great.
Or offer it to the homeowner, they may be surprisingly interested. That's another way of attack.
to hook up,
Mm-hmm. Some
Yeah.
people really
For free.
wanna do that.
Well, you can't, go across property lines without a sewer.
They don't abut?
It's a separate
Sewer
law.
district.
Oh,
You know, we should
Yeah.
look at this issue of the 8 units per building, because it drives up the construction costs by having more exterior walls, and it also, you have to create the setbacks from the building, so you're eating up more of your lot area.
You could do
So,
some type of cluster plan where you
If,
do
you
subdivide off.
know, we might wanna have a separate conversation about relaxing that, whether we need to do it through the zoning board, or whether we needed to do it through the town code,
You
where.
don't even need to, like, as we talked about clustering, in a subdivision process, if they were to subdivide off 25% and give that, either offer dedication or a homeowner's, or someone, they're maintaining it, you carve out 25% and then the resulting lot, standards can be changed.
Right, so in
based
an
on-
effort
But it still has to stay
to
in
create
compliance
more,
with HUD law, our
so
law.
the protected feature in this would be the increased open space, right? So in an effort to increase the
It
open
would
space.
not only increase open space, it would provide public access.
Yeah.
Even though this is open space, it's still private property. If you carve it off and they offer it to us, it's part of our, then it's publicly accessible.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm saying, and then when you do, and that's the benefit of cluster subdivisions, is that
But this
you
is
can
not a
then-
subdivision, no.
It could be. They're not proposing a subdivision right now. What I'm saying is if you wanted to amend the dimensional regulations without having to go to the ZBA, you could do that certainly. They could do 25% in open space
Yeah,
in
right.
public.
I'd be interested to see a code that did that.
No, we have the code right now, they just have to lay it out, that's what our chapter
But do we have the
247
code, but it's only
does.
attached to subdivision, this isn't a
Yes.
subdivision.
They would have to
They
propose
would
the
have to
subdivision.
subdivide.
Propose to subdivide, it's not a
Yeah.
proposal now, but.
Oh,
would-
subdivide it in
To
terms of
create-
creating the open space piece?
Is a
and then-
separate lot, yeah. And
Oh,
once you
okay.
put the lot line of 25%, that becomes a cluster it'd be 2 lots, 3 lots, one is the open space.
Well, we'll
You'd have
figure
to
that out.
figure that
It's
out.
a-
There's a little
it's
bit of
very
nuance to that.
Creative idea.
But I'd also be open to not a zone change, a code change that would allow that, more than 8 units of building, provided, there's a protected feature that you're trying to protect, like open space.
In other words, allow almost the town board to cluster without the subdivision, is what you're asking.
I don't know if I agree with that, but.
Yeah, no, I think you're
I'm
muddying
using-
waters and getting
I
down.
think the 8
out.
units an acre is somewhat eight units
that
per
was,
building is somewhat
know,
arbitrary.
But there are avenues to go to get that changed. Yes, it takes more time, but,
Well, you need a variance to do it.
yeah, but
whereas
to
you
do
might-
it with there's a reason why that exists, and to just paint a broad stroke and take that out of the equation.
No,
is-
Well, no, it would allow
I
you
would
to
do it for
zone it in a
affordable
way.
housing.
If I may, when we used to do PDDs, which are, there's a lot that nobody liked, but the benefit and the good part was you were able to design it the way you wanted. And then you had so much flexibility to just be like, oh, all right, this building could be 10 units, this is 8, and this one's 6,
Didn't we
and you
allow,
could do
I
that.
thought there still was a PDD for affordable housing, I thought we left that in the
There's,
code.
no,
No.
there's only, affordable housing overlay district.
No, we got
The
rid of that.
farm PDD, I think. We tended
No,
to
it's
come-
now a former.
But the
farm
flexibility, I
PDD.
think, is
Well,
really
conservation.
important.
PDD, farm.
I
the
thought we
design.
left that on the books, the affordable housing PDD.
Not that I'm aware of. It's AHOD. But we can work with this, let's
Okay.
figure out, A, if you even wanna do it, or consider it. B, we know that it needs some redesign.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there, and then see
And let's hear
public
from the
input.
community and
All right,
from,
so we'll get-
and from Kara. I think she obviously would agree with this. I think she might be able to be helpful in that respect.
We'll get back to you guys relatively quickly as to if we'll consider it and under what conditions.
John, she was in the initial meeting, she did have a lot of input.
Okay,
in
good,
this,
good,
so.
yeah.
And if you do wanna consider it, then there will be a resolution on the, whatever agenda you want,
And
and it would say elect to consider, or not.
normally
and-
with these, though, you give us a report.
I did, I just handed it to you.
Oh, okay. That's
I
the final
recommend you do
report?
consider it, because we are in
Okay.
a crisis, so if we don't consider it, what are we doing?
Okay, so this is the final report,
That's
okay?
the
there's not-
report.
I don't know, 6 months.
a
I've
report.
been
Easy to
in
count.
there,
And it's
so.
east of the cow, and it's less than 50, it's only 34, so
Okay.
it's up to you, of
Okay.
course. And then at some point, can you give me this digitally and like a
Absolutely.
color rendering or something that we can post online so people can familiarize
I'll have to
themselves?
look and see if any.
Or any
is
kind of digital representation.
All right, so we'll have to talk, I'll speak to,
But then
talk
if
about
you're
getting a
changing
rendering
it, you
together.
may or may not want it, but, just so that people can see where you're going, or
Yeah.
even the other design that you said you did, I saw some type of rendering at one
Yeah, I
point.
had renderings done of that.
So maybe just give us that, it's a little different.
People react better to renderings, they can,
Yeah,
I
they
think
can
that's,
see it.
pictures worth
It's
1,000
3D.
words, right?
We'll prepare something.
Something that, so we would like to put like the PDF of this plan and this
Mhm.
and the
And a
rendering
rendering,
sort
yeah.
of online, just to get everybody familiar. And then we can move forward if you want to, and then we can work on
I
design
would
changes.
take it to the North Sea CAC as soon as possible, so we can get that.
They are meeting again
Input.
on,
I'd like that to happen prior to us making the final decision to hold a public hearing.
Definitely, yeah, definitely
Okay,
want to
so
hear
we'll
from
wait
community.
until after that.
Yeah.
July 11th.
What was the size of the one-bedroom apartment?
Oh.
2 was 1,080.
We found that once we hold the public hearing, they're.
Yeah, the 2
they'll act
is
like there's a presumption.
1,081.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
that it's gotta
Might
move-
be on the site
happen.
plan, actually.
I'm sorry, what
Yeah,
was
the
it?
1 bedroom. which
How many?
No, the size of it,
It said, somewhere between 601 and 1,200.
right.
For the
Yeah, I don't
one
think it's been
bedroom?
fully designed
Okay.
yet.
No, 1,200 sounds like a two-bedroom.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
probably
it's-
the health
I
department.
think
Yeah,
it's,
no, I'm sure it's not, yeah.
They
600
both
for one,
were-
and then 1,200 for 2 or
Oh.
something.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is, right?
Okay.
It's,
That
it's,
just sounded
The health
big.
department, I think you keep 6 or less for 1 bedroom, it's all about gallons per day.
And what was the distribution, 1 and 2 bedroom?
Here it says 8 one-bedrooms and 26 two-bedrooms,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
but if you change the buildings, you know, come back, you could talk to the CAC, see what you wanna do, and then you can come back with a count that makes more
Yeah, and, you know,
sense.
That's
our
walls and stuff.
affordability is you know, we typically do this in perpetuity. So there's no expiration date.
Right.
So 50 years from, 30 years from now, it can't become a market rate, seasonal,
Understood.
summer
Yeah,
home.
aware of that, and, yeah.
You know, we're gonna require some kind of something filed with the deed that guarantees its
That's fine.
affordability.
Be understood.
Okay.
You know, covenant, levy.
Absolutely, yeah. I was gonna ask if you wanted to.
I do.
Okay, I'll pull them up.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? So I have a little
I'm just
list.
No,
hoping
but we
too
have,
that-
we'll
that
probably
this-
have some.
I'm hoping because of the approach you're taking, it doesn't sound like you're looking for federal tax credits, you're not looking for county jumpstart money.
Privately funded.
It's privately funded. I'm hoping that through that, you're able to, you know, meet your goals of trying to create housing for essential workers in the community.
Fantastic.
Um,
Thank you.
And I agree with that, that's why I was suggesting, when you talk with Kara, you may want to consider some forms of funding that might make sense in that respect.
You know, you'll
for
still be
you.
subject to fair housing rules, anti-discrimination,
Yeah.
et cetera, but,
And a lottery.
I can guarantee.
yeah, I know, I'm just making sure Zach's aware too,
Yeah,
that there's
no,
still
We've talked about it.
talked about it,
regulations
and
in
our
place,
goal-
even without those federal
Our
or
goal is
county,
to try
state
to,
dollars.
to privately fund it and get it done. You know, we'll
Yeah.
talk to our banks and get some capital,
You know,
and try to get it done, because I think it streamlines the process. It's we're
does.
past the crisis at this point. It's-
Absolutely,
So
okay,
I think it's a South Pole.
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, thanks, guys, see you, Zach.
First responder, teacher preference, you know, I hope you get you. Addresses the.
No. I don't think you have to do a lottery at all. You just, the people in places there must meet the criteria, and it can't be discriminatory in terms of how you recruit.
Thank you, board.
Thank you. Thanks, Janice.
Thank you.
Unless we require that as part of, as a condition
I
of
would
the zoning,
require that.
that we manage the program.
No, I would require that. If it's privately funding it,
I know. But it's, you know, it's essential that if we're gonna do a private thing, that it's not steered toward any individuals anyway, so. You know, not that somebody.
Say
couldn't
that like
propose
soapbox.
a company that wanna build housing for my workers.
He doesn't want to talk to me about what we need to talk about.
We have to look at it for what it is.
we're all stuck here for the duration.
Was it? Well.
We did updates.
You know, John
John
hasn't, John hasn't done his updates. So, other, and when do we wanna, we're gonna wait for the North Sea CAC to weigh in, and then, we,
Yeah, I think Tom John needs to be updated too on it.
I think so too. Let's see if there's anything else. Is John coming back?
You're gonna have to talk to.
You know, I don't think
Here
he
he
really
comes.
had any updates that can wait. Oh, here he is.
He said you didn't.
Maybe. He said he did.
All right, then, is he coming in?
He's thinking about it.
He-
John, do you have updates?
I'm sorry?
Do you have updates?
I'm sorry?
It's your,
Updates.
it's your time to do your updates.
No,
It's your time to shine.
it's like it's,
Okay, then, we do have executive session stuff, confidential legal advice. On a number of different issues. I don't know, I'm gonna assume there's some CPF, something.
No,
I
CPF
have
today.
one. CPF related. So,
I don't see it on the agenda.
No, it's Jay's. It's not.
yes, I don't know that, possibly. So why don't we just go, into executive session on confidential legal advice and possible land acquisition. All right, I'll make a motion to end our work session, go into executive on this item.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.